I'll just go when I'm,
Yeah, that's fine.
which will be about 20 past, I think. Yeah.
Have a nice dinner.
I will, Ines, I will. I'm looking forward to not cooking.
All right, so let's kick this one off. So I guess the word or the phrases of trainer, coach and trainer do get thrown around quite a lot lately, and sometimes it's very hard to kind of nice photo. I got another gem of a photo.
This is a good trainer. A good coach. Sorry, this is a good coach. Reports you.
Yeah. So I guess the lines are becoming more blurred in terms of the definition of a coach and trainer when it comes to the health and fitness industry. And I guess tonight it's not so much in terms of what exactly the difference is. I think what makes a really good coach or good trainer at the end of the day. And I think it's someone or an individual who really delivers outcomes for the individual. And we'll discuss that in a little bit more. And the guys will actually chime in, Nathan and Dave, and really kind of explain some three key, myself will explain 3 key points as to what really makes a good coach or a good trainer at the end of the day. So I guess I want to get through all the boring stuff first. Just the definition. So a coach is someone who gives instructions as to what they do or say in a particular situation. So everything is very context driven. So we can actually make changes and adapt on the fly when it comes to certain individuals. A trainer is just someone who trains people or animals. So just kind of like, to a certain degree, somewhat regimented. And we see a lot of trainers, I guess, from what my experience and a lot of your guys' experience as well of what a personal trainer is, they tend to, it's kind of like a clock in, clock out kind of thing. And I think because there's so many personal trainers out there in today's day and age, they're just kind of like, this person's turning up at 6 o'clock. I'm going to train it from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, and that's my time done with them. So it's just time for money kind of transaction, whilst I guess we'll explain more, but in terms of a coach is kind of looking not that time for money kind of deal, it's like time for outcome or money for outcome in this case. So you pay X amount of dollars and you're expecting a certain outcome at the end of the day. So I think the industry has just kind of created some definitions of what a coach and trainer, and based on what's been highlighted within the industry and what we've been shown at the moment is a bit of a differentiation, but also a lot of crossover between the two. So let's kind of bring it back to the real world. So a personal trainer is an individual who has earned a certification that demonstrates they have achieved a level of competency for creating and delivering safe and effective exercise programs for apparently healthy individuals and groups, or those within the with medical clearance to exercise. So I'm really talking about like boot camps, obviously personal trainers, small group training, virtual training. A best way to describe personal trainer who would basically prescribe exercises, sets, reps, that have a consult with the individual at hand, do some level of assessment. But I guess it's more there we go, that's better. They're looking more specifically at health-related outcomes. So is it more just to get them physically active? Is it to help reduce their blood pressure? Is it just more to help them drop a few kilos? This is kind of where a personal trainer comes into play at the end of the day. It's usually assisting the individual to get some sort of health-related outcome. A strength and conditioning coach, I guess the three of us would categorize us as strength and conditioning coaches. We assist in the physical performance or professional realm to help exercise prescription to deliver on outcomes, usually to improve performance for competitions that are coming up or work with teams. This is achieved through a combination of strength training, aerobic conditioning, and other methods. So what a personal trainer knows and what a strength conditioning coach knows it's kind of the same information, but the way the information applied is actually quite different. Like I mentioned before, personal trainer is specifically looking at health-related outcomes. Strength conditioning coach is looking at performance-related outcomes, but that doesn't go without saying that a strength conditioning coach still needs to look at the health-related outcomes before moving on to the sport-related outcomes or the performance-related outcomes. So you can't work on performance until you've really worked on someone's health-related outcomes. So for an example of that is, just nod your heads if you guys know NFL. Do you know NFL, Inez? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So you know how like there's different positions and all different sizes and strengths and power outputs and all that jazz. The main thing is keeping those guys healthy at the end of the day. So if they're healthy, it's usually on the field. And that's where the strength and conditioning coach can really assist with keeping them healthy, first of all, but second of all, making sure they perform at a high level. So these are the key things we need to take into consideration with more that athletic pursuit. They'll also work with individuals. They'll also work with squads, and they can also do like online coaching or consulting as well. So everyone who's been on the in a home athlete program is coaching. So we're not necessarily watching every single repetition of every exercise that you're performing. We're prescribing the guidelines for you to follow in order to get a specific outcome so you can perform it in your own time. I guess a clear differentiation between what a personal trainer does in more the virtual world, considering everything had to go virtual essentially, is they're the ones just counting the reps, counting the sets, critiquing the form. We're watching someone for half an hour to maybe 45 minutes to an hour. So they're just critiquing as they're going. It's not really kind of like the education, making sure they understand the program and they can do the program in their own time. I guess another point to that as well with a coach, if from a coaching perspective, if for all the things that we've been doing at the moment before COVID hit, is we were educating you guys. So we were focusing on really getting you guys to understand pelvis under, reach, shoulder blades apart, shoulder blades together, really providing these cues. So as soon as COVID hit, you really had a good idea of what certain exercises were supposed to feel like anyways. So then it's not something we have to like watch you do every single exercise. We've actually educated you specifically on what you need to do. Hopefully that makes sense to everyone. Whilst a trainer is someone who's just kind of do a certain exercise, they'll demonstrate themselves online, then they'll get the other person to do the exercise online. Another way to consider it is if I've trained someone for 6 months and they go away for a month and they want to continue to train, I can just pass my program based on exercises they've done in the past or their previous programs, and more than likely they're going to be able to implement that program to a higher degree. So they're still able to get some sort of outcome from their training when you're coaching them. All right. So we've kind of gone through some similarities and some differences between the two of a personal trainer and a strength coach or strength conditioning coach. And we're going to go through what really makes a good trainer or what makes a good coach. Depends on what the context is or who we're talking to or about. The one thing that myself, Dave, and Nathan all agree upon is three main things, and we'll start to go through these one by one. So the first thing we actually really agree upon is we build rapport and relationship with the client. Now, for those who are working with us at the moment, is the first time we're actually building rapport is actually well before we actually physically speak to you. So that is through the social media, that's through our blogs, that's through our website. We're really trying to build rapport and let you guys what we do, what we know, and how we can actually help you. And the second point of call is actually with mum. or for those who are watching this, Lorraine. And that's when we're having a conversation and actually build and understanding what your current situation is. Just kind of just scraping the layers away and understanding where you currently are. And that second conversation is actually going to be with me. Then we have a sit down and really flesh things out and see what's really going on with the current situation. And this is before we even lifted a dumbbell. This is before we even done a test or a screen or anything like that. So we're really trying to understand individual or where they are, what their needs are, and we're trying to meet them and understand their language at the same time as well. Then we actually go into the training side. So we don't even go into the training side until we've had at least 3 to 5 different touch points with the individual. Then from this process is, then we understand, then we implement some exercises. So we might get to do a trial session or something like that to get to experience what's going on. And by this point, we should be able to get things to click and prescribing and begin to prescribe certain exercises that can provide some level of immediate benefit. And this is where the build rapport, relationship, and understanding the client and what their needs are and implementing something straight off the bat actually means to the client, they get me. They understand where I'm at. And that's the most critical thing. If any PT or anyone wants to be successful, or you want to find a really good personal trainer or a strength coach, whoever it may be, this is one of the critical factors that needs to be considered, because you can waste a lot of time with personal trainers that want to prescribe based on what they've done in the past or what they're biased towards. And now I'm going to be biased towards certain things, but I'm not going to say you have to be able to get to this level. I'm not going to say anything like that. I'm not going to say we have to do CrossFit, we have to do weightlifting, we have to do powerlifting or anything like that. We need to make sure we're meeting the individual's needs at the end of the day. And especially when you do that first session or even that assessment, is you're meeting the individual's needs. And those needs might change over time, and that's totally okay. Someone might want to just get into the gym for the first time and be like, I just want to lift weights because apparently the doc said it's good for me. My joints getting stiff, I wake up with lower back pain. Okay, cool. Let's just do some basic exercises. Start with 4 exercises. Then a couple of weeks down the track, it's like, oh, I'm feeling really good. I got a little bit of muscle. I'm loving the muscle. Feeling good, feeling jacked up, got more energy. I'm going to play with my kids a lot more. And they probably want a little bit more. So understand the individual, and potentially their goals might change over time. And that allows you to understand the individual and further develop the relationship with the individual. Now I'm going to stop rambling on. I'm going to move the next point on to Nathan. So Nathan, I'll get you to kick this one off.
Yeah, cool. So for our second point, what makes a great coach, I'll just read off the screen here. So just quickly. So a good coach here explains the why behind exercises, drills, programs, and then communicates in a language that the client understands by providing context and having relevance to the goals and outcomes of exactly that. So their goals and outcomes here. So what's important behind this is obviously the why. So my screen is just going all over the place. Give me a second here.
You all right, Nathan?
For some reason, all of you are on the side of the screen now in the bottom, but that's all right. I can see you all now. All right. So what's important here is that anyone who's being told what to do, you kind of want to know why before you do something. Someone tells you to, do a bench press, and you don't understand why that is helpful for your goals or your outcome. You're not really going to really listen or really pay attention to that exercise and want to really do great at it. Whereas if, we explain the context behind why we prescribe that certain exercise, you're more inclined to actually give it your best shot and give your effort to that exercise. Same with any drills we prescribe, programs, and anything like that. And that just comes down to what Trent was saying earlier in the presentation. A good coach educates, so educates their client. So then at least, they are able to even do the exercise by themselves without a trainer there, or at least have some sort of base where they can, actually do it themselves. And obviously, as a coach, we're there still to help where need be. But yeah, I think that's a pretty important point we're raising here. When you see a good coach or a great coach is someone who actually explains the why behind what they do and why they do it. Anything you want to add, Trent?
Yeah, I think what I've witnessed in the past is, and I've worked in commercial settings, and the one thing I've seen is PTs tend, and I've seen this too many times, is a PT will get someone doing a certain session, then they'll literally replicate that for the same individual. Now, this is, now Nick's like, yep. Yeah. And it's really bad at the end of the day, because it's basically, you've kind of gone this cookie cutter approach where they could have just done boot camp and it would have been exactly the same thing. Would have done exactly the same. But I think it misses the point of why we're actually helping the individual at the end of the day. And there's a little bit of onus on the client to actually ask the questions like, why am I doing this certain exercise? Why am I doing this mobility exercise? Why am I doing this certain deadlift? So it needs to be something that needs to be applied to the individual. And now what I mean applied is, so for Inez, right, if you want to be able to continue to play with your grandkids, they're going to get heavier. They probably want to be held anyways, right? So we want to make sure that you're strong enough, if they do decide to climb up all over you like a bunch of monkeys, that you can withstand that at the end of the day. So we want to make sure that you're strong enough for what your context is or what your performance needs to be. Hopefully that makes sense. That makes sense, Inez?
Yes.
Do they
Yes.
climb? Do they climb all over you sometimes?
Yes, we fight and play and punch and all of that.
Yeah, because you want to be able
All
to tolerate
in a friendly
it.
way.
Yeah.
All in a friendly way.
And you want to be able to essentially tolerate it, because then you can keep up with them, and at the end of the day, it provides that joy that you love, spending time with your grandkids. And that's what training is ultimately about, to be able to provide or give you what you ultimately love. All right, let's move on. Point 3, Dave.
Yeah. So, what makes a great coach / trainer, or a trainer? So point 3 is that the coach or the trainer keeps the client accountable and shows care in that person outside the gym, etc. So I'm just reading off the screen. So what this means is basically, so Nathan, can you put yourself on mute? I can hear myself through you. Awesome, cool. So so basically, with you guys in the gym, we only see you probably 1 hour for the day that you come in. If it's 2 days a week, 3 days a week, 4 days a week, we still have to remember that you are still somewhere in the other 23 hours of the day and the rest of the week. So we want to make sure that the behaviors and the actions that you're doing outside the gym are still going to be productive and conducive to your goals. So if you come to me and you say, hey Dave, I want to get fit and strong, and I say, yep, no worries, I can help you. Let's start with that. You come to the gym 1 day a week and you only sleep 5 hours and you eat like crap and you don't actually act in behaviors that are conducive to your goals, that's not going to get the goal you want. So a good coach should be able to not only educate, but empower the client or the person to make the decisions that are conducive to their goals. For that first initial stage of growing pains, we're getting used to the changes. It might have to be, daily calls, weekly calls where you say, hey, how's everything going, to a point where they're completely autonomous. And so you don't need to constantly check in and make sure they're doing the right thing, babysit them. So a great coach should be able to educate the person so they can do it themselves. At the end of the day, we want to make ourselves redundant, and so that you know how to achieve your own goals by yourself. The flip opposite to that is that with a personal trainer or just a regular trainer, like a group fitness class trainer, they might see you for an hour, one day a week, twice a week, and then it's a see you later, see you next week. And they don't really show any sort of care for what you're doing outside the gym, when you're how many hours of sleeping, what your diet's like, what your stress is like. So too often we forget that a lot of our results are going to come from our environment. So if you have a high stress environment, low stress environment, your mental state. So if you're constantly stressed, depressed, or if you're in a content, happy state, either end of that continuum or that polarity is going to provide a different result at the end of the day. So on environment, psychological, and the people around you. So the great thing about the gym is that it provides a culture and a community of like-minded individuals that all are striving to improve themselves. Whereas, if you constantly hang around people who are eating like crap, drinking every Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, taking drugs, whatever it is, more often than not that you're going to be close to, it's just like the phrase, you are a reflection of the 5 people that you're close to. So we are looking at the environment we surround ourselves in, the environment we put ourselves in, the psychological state we're in, or the social environment that we're in as well. So I guess wrapping all that up is that coaches, great coaches, we want to make sure that not only do you get your training in, but we want to make sure that you're growing as a better person because of it. Not just, hey, you're in the gym, training session done, count the reps, see you next week, and we don't talk to you. So that's why we're constantly, over the Inner Home Athlete program, we do the weekly calls, make sure that you're okay outside training. We're checking how's your family, how's your dog, how's your grandkids, that kind of thing. Yeah. So that's all for me.
It's good. It's like if you guys don't know, Craig Harper, he has a really good story. He trained someone for a very long time, overweight lady, and she was training quite frequently as well. I think it was at least 3 times a week, and she was self-sabotaging herself. So she would actually go out in the middle of the night, swear to God, go to the supermarket, buy a tub of ice cream, just eat the whole tub of ice cream in the car. I know it's really depressing in this. It's really bad. So, but what Craig did, he called her out on her bullshit and actually had a real honest heart-to-heart conversation to say, what the F is going on? Why are you doing this? Then why? Then why? Then why? Scrape away all the layers and get down to the core feelings and beliefs of what's really going on, why she's choosing this path of self-pity and gorging on ice cream in the middle of the night. So it's great that we can prescribe sets, reps, and all that jazz. It's another story to actually be able to hold someone accountable and actually find out what's really holding them back. And I think this is where a lot of trainers and coaches kind of go wrong, is like Dave said, the 23 hours, we only see people for an hour, but then there's only 168 hours in the week. I'm like, well, we only see people for maybe a maximum of 4 hours a week. Like, what are they going to do the other 164 hours? It's like, come on. So what we try and do is, rather than have us influence those 4 hours, we try and influence the rest of the 164 hours. and actually makes more positive change in people's lives. And if we do that for long enough and continue to educate and support them along the way, not pussyfoot or anything like that, it's actually support them, be there when that, not be there when they need us exactly, but to provide that level of support and care is what's really going to help them have that breakthrough to actually really move away from those damaging behaviors and have some behaviors that really serve them at the end of the day. So what I'm really trying to say is a coach is someone who's going to be able to have that honest heart-to-heart conversation. And if they have done, number one, built the rapport and the relationship with the client, they should be able to have the platform to be able to talk to the individual and have a heart-to-heart and sit down with them and be like, hey, what's really going on? Why aren't you just on the train? Why aren't you going to bed at a normal time? Why are you choosing to do all these negative behaviors? So I think that's another element of what a really good coach is.
Yeah.
So
can I add one more thing to that?
go for it.
Yeah. So that's a really good thing that Trent said. So yeah, like coaches want to call people out on their bullshit or any negative behaviors actually they're doing. As a coach, we're not like, we are your friend, but we're not just your friend. We are there to, be friendly, be civil, make good relationships with you, but we're not there to say like, oh yeah, like you're doing a good job, yay, like yes, everything you're doing is good. Like we're there to, constructive criticism. If we notice that something that you're doing is self-sabotaging or negative in some way, we have to be there to have that tough conversation and say, hey, look, what you're doing is not right. It's not conducive to your goal. And that's the role of a coach, is to recognize those and frame that discussion and say, hey, look, what you're doing is not right, and provide the strategies to work around that that wall of bad behaviors that are there, to go under it, around it, over it. But making the person aware of it and say, yes, I'm aware that's bad. Okay, cool. Let's break it down. Let's find the core root of it. Let's recognize it. Let's resolve it. Finished. Yeah.
Nice. All right, discussion. I'm going to kick off this discussion really quickly because I've been watching the keys to economics lately, and when someone says a certain word, if it's like, yes, that's really good, but they say it too often, it actually loses its meaning. So this is where a bad trainer is like, yeah, good, keep going. It's like, yeah, and they keep saying it, and they keep saying it, and they keep saying it, and it continues to lose its value. And this is where a good coach is, where it has a good vocabulary, a vocab, and be able to describe or be able to troubleshoot or be able to make adjustments to the individual, and not just allow the individual have this false sense of what they're doing is actually good, because then the client will actually begin to question, is it actually good if they keep saying everything is good? Because to understand what is good, you have to understand what is bad. That's one of the big points. To understand what is good, you have to understand what is bad, and bad needs to come first as well. If we get someone who comes in the gym for the first time and they do a goblet squat, and it just looks wrong in every single way, and I say that's good, keep going, do another 8 more, then I'm setting up some really bad language that's going to be used later on down the track, and I'm setting a precedence as well. So we need to make sure that we clarify what is bad and make sure we clarify what is good. Now, I'm enough from that point. And Nez, what were your thoughts on the presentation?
Yeah, I was under the impression that a coach, it was someone that coached a team of people, like a soccer, rugby, footy. Well, yeah, tennis coach as well is not a team, but it's individual.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought that the coach is more for competition kind of thing, but the personal trainers where for, yeah, you want to develop muscles, or you want to lose weight, or you want to look like this, or blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, I mean, I know that there's a lot of similarities, and the goal on both names should be the benefit for the client, of course. And it's good to know that, in your case, that you have this boutique gym, so you are able to pay attention to the individual and to take care of their needs. Mm-hmm.
I was about to say something, but I totally forgot. I might come back to you if it comes back, that thought to me. Nick, what were your thoughts? You look like you were doodling some notes.
Yeah, just a couple. I pretty much just wrote down what you said, and I couldn't agree more. I'll just touch on my little, I guess, what I have the input. So, having been going through sport and everything like that, I've had exposure to all sorts of coaches, and I never really knew what a good coach was, because I wasn't aware of what made a good coach. As obviously everyone has different styles of coaching, and the ways that they get the most out of their team or an individual is the way they do things. But ever since, I guess, being a part of being an athlete, it's really opened my eyes to what I guess a good coach trainer is. And as you can see, it's shown right there. So everything that you've touched on, I feel as though would obviously make a good coach, and what we spoke about last week on Sunday after the coffee chat as well is what I feel makes a really good coach. But yeah, as I said, just being aware of what makes a good coach, and for myself going forward, I'm able to, I guess, take advantage of that and really add that to myself, and the way I intend on being a coach has really been beneficial for myself. So, yeah.
That's good. I think, yeah, like I said, with the good and bad, how do you know what's bad if you don't know what good is, and
That's
vice
right.
versa. And if you haven't set clear definitions of what that is, it all just becomes one big blur. And it's just like, is this what it's supposed to be? And it's like, no, kind of is. Right? You just kind of just jog along with the whole idea.
And another thing is, I know for yourself, I'm sure you know how to get the best out of like specific individuals. I think that's a skill that you've certainly got, where you can relate to that specific person and know how to get the best out of them. For some people, it may be, I think, like you spoke about in The Last Dance. I haven't seen it, but the way MJ would, just beat someone up, and then that'd get them ramped up to then, I guess, perform better, or to take a different approach to another teammate or something like that. I think that's a really good skill to have, and that's just another aspect of the big world of coaching. But,
yeah, I think actually, I've just thought of the point that goes back to Nez's point. So I know how you said about a trainer and a coach, right? At the end of the day, we're all trying to perform at something. Whether we're trying to really perform it well at life, we're trying to perform by walking up the stairs pain-free, we're trying to keep up with the kids. That's some level of performance. Does that make sense, Ines?
Yes, definitely.
So we're not looking at just the health perspective in terms of like metrics, like blood pressure, fasting glucose, whatever other metrics I totally forgot now, or blood test results. That's health related. But when we're talking about performance related, we're talking about what do people do on a day-to-day basis. Are people being able to have the reaction time if they stumble over a footpath and be able to catch themselves? That's a performance. You either perform it well, or you don't perform it. You fall on your ass, or you fall on your side and potentially fracture something. So we've got to make sure that we're still looking at the health perspective, but we're trying to move from that health perspective, move up towards the performance realm, but contextually as well. So we're focusing specific on the individual's performance in their own life. Can they walk upstairs? Can they get in and out of the car pain-free? Can they carry, do the groceries and carry the groceries from the car to the kitchen or something like that? So this is probably what I mean. This is probably one of the main reasons why we called it inner athlete, because we're all competitors in our own world, in our own context. We want to be able to perform our tasks really well. Hopefully everyone's nodding, so it seems like I said something.
That was sick.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Thanks, Inez, for that one. Mum.
To me, coaching is holistic. Training is a bit more harsher, just doing what's required. Coaching looks at everything from a holistic perspective with the person. That's just the way that I look at it.
Oh, yes, it makes sense. I was going to say that holistic, and I forgot.
That's all right. I'll give the mic back to Nathan. Anything you want to add on top?
Yeah, just to add, I listen to a lot of podcasts in regards to coaches and sport coaches and personal trainers and strength and conditioning coaches mainly, actually. And these questions come up a lot through the podcast they're on. They ask the trainer or the coach, what is a good coach, and what makes them a good coach, or what makes them so successful in their role. And a lot of the trends or the theme is pretty much exactly what we've discussed in this webinar. Is those three points that we've identified: being able to build relationships and rapport with the client or the team you're working with, being able to explain why you're doing something and how to do it, and then also just keeping the client accountable and showing that you do care about their well-being, health and well-being in the gym and also outside in the real world. So I think it's good to see that what we've identified is actually very common amongst very successful coaches. So just wanted to add that.
Yeah, and I think that reigns true. Is birds of a feather flock together kind of deal, where you're going to have people that have very similar mindsets and concepts, and they're going to just display very similar behaviors, and usually they're actually quite successful because they follow very similar traits or characteristics in order to help individuals move on wherever they need to. We're going to pass it over to Dave, then we'll close this one up. Yeah, so
I've got lots of comments from all the guys, so it's really good to hear your thoughts. So yeah, I like what you said about different coaches you've experienced, Nick. So, and you touched on MJ. So what I liked about watching The Last Dance, which is a documentary about the Chicago Bulls, and just different stories and experiences from all the players that went through that time, through the era of Michael Jordan. So what I liked about Phil Jackson, who was the coach of the Bulls at the time, is that he was very, very good at understanding people and what makes them tick, and understanding what type of beasts they are. So Phil understood Michael was purely driven on his competitiveness. So he was always, it's always a fine line of unleashing Michael, not to the point where it comes to self-destructive and, blow an injury, or but at the same time, once Michael understood, hey, I'm getting a bit old, I'm not as athletic as I used to be, that's when Phil sort of utilized Michael's leadership and ability to pass that torch over, or that, I guess, license for other players in the team to go and score points, to go and take the limelight. So I think it's a good coach understands what makes people tick, but also understands how to get the best out of them, how to use them in a team setting to bring the best, their strengths out, but also to lift other people's strengths as well. So you can easily do this in a footy standpoint. So in a rugby standpoint, obviously, if you're a forward, you want to be able to have great ball security, play the ball fast, ability to offload, so that your hooker, your dummy half, any second receivers, they can receive the ball safely, score a try, something like that. And same thing with Dennis Rodman. Like, Dennis Rodman was just a unique beast. So Phil didn't discriminate him as like, oh, you're an outcast. Yes, he was an outcast, but Phil wasn't like, oh, you're an outcast, don't play for us. He understood that he is a special person. And yes, he was a bit different from the other team, but he utilized his drive and strengths, not from an attacking side, but from a defensive side, and was like, hey, we have identified that you're a defensive beast. Let's capitalize on that.
Mm.
Yeah. Secondly, yeah, you're right, Lorraine. Health is not just, so previously the definition of health has been the absence of health, the absence of illness or disease. Now it's been recognized as more of a holistic approach. So body, mind, soul, emotional health, mental health, that kind of thing. A good coach needs to recognize this holistic approach and understand how to not only improve the physical health, but also understand how mental health plays with physical health, emotional health plays with physical health, spiritual health plays with physical health, and all those other, they're all inextricably linked. If one's out of whack, everything's out of whack. It's understanding how can we bring all these up to its best fruition itself. And thirdly, sorry, this is something that I know Trent's focused largely on with his coaching philosophy, is that he's in it for the quality of life for his clients. He's not just looking for the performance benefits, but also the quality of life. So yes, we are all athletes, so we all have performance. So we want to be a better athlete, a better being able to pick up the grandkids, to be able to get in and out of the car without back pain, that sort of thing. That improving quality of life is just going to make the person feel so much more better. So greater peace of mind, no stress, that kind of thing. And that just in itself addresses the holistic approach to health, not just the absence of illness or disease. Yeah, that's all from me.
I just got a question. When you talk about, you spoke about the health, definition of health and stuff, and taking into account the social and mental stuff. Obviously, you've got to stay within the scope of practice. But if you feel as though what you're going to say to that person will actually benefit them, instead of them going to actually see a professional, would you just say it anyway, or would you, refer them on, or do you sort of get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, so there are legalities, or I guess legislation, that you can't go outside of your scope of what you've studied and what you're accredited towards. The way you can kind of circumvent this is make it as a suggestion, not as a recommendation. It's like, my suggestion is to go see someone, or to try this. This is what's personally worked for me and a few other clients. Whether it is to go do a float tank, or to go take a certain supplement or something like that. I like, for example, right, I've suggested clients who when we had the bushfires, right, and it was really smoky in Melbourne, what that does, the smoke, inhaling all that smoke, is it causes a lot of oxidative stress. So what I said is to try and boost your immunity by eating more high antioxidant foods. And if that's going to be a struggle, then there's a few different routes. You can obviously go vitamin C is an antioxidant, but also glutathione. Glutathione is actually a really powerful antioxidant. So you can make the suggestion, and I do believe it's more of an educated guess because from my perspective, I only make suggestions if I've done the research behind it and tried it myself as well to see whether there's any legitimacy behind it. So at the end of the day, it's more about making the suggestion than it is about making the recommendation.
Yeah, cool. That's a good way to put it. Awesome.
Yeah, so it's up to the individual to actually go ahead and do it. Because you're not saying, let's go to the supplement store and we're going to go stock up on some pre-workout creatine and protein powder. You're not going to do that, no. I do get clients asking where I do source my protein from. So it's them asking, where do I get my protein from? And I say, I get this type of protein. This is what I get. Yeah. Or address your diet first, then we'll go from there.
Yeah, definitely. That's touched back to being a great coach and just a trainer. More often than not, poor trainers don't know that. They don't know there's the litigation side of it, and they often think, oh, I know it all, and they end up acting outside the scope of practice. So, say for example, if it's some Instagram booty chick on Instagram that is like selling a diet program, they may not be qualified, and that's a really toxic thing in our fitness industry now. Is that so many young girls see these women selling a diet program, and they end up crash dieting to like freaking 800 calories, and they get more body image issues, anorexia, poor relationship with food, and that is the perfect example of why you don't go outside. If someone says, oh, hey, Nick, can you get me a diet plan? Be like, well, why do you want it? And they're like, oh, I'm trying to lose some weight. First of all, you might actually sit down and say, hey, what are you eating now? Figure out what are they lacking. Are they lacking vegetables? Okay, cool. Eat more vegetables. Could you know that in the Australian Food Dietary Guidelines, vegetables and fruits are very important. But if they're really serious and they want a diet plan, refer them out to someone who's qualified. Just the same way as a dietitian wouldn't go and give someone a training program because they're not qualified. They're qualified to get.
Right, yeah. And just on that point, those, you call them Instagram models and stuff, they make so much money off other people. I'm sure you could talk a lot about that, but yeah, that's just, I'm sure that drives you guys up the wall.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to Dave's point down there, that we're missing the health component first. We're missing that. Let's work on the individual's health rather than let's get them crash dieting to make themselves physically look better, then they're hoping that they feel better as a result. We've totally, like, the industry has kind of gone off in the wrong direction and needs to be brought back in. The good thing, I guess, one of the silver linings with all the isolation and COVID-19 is now people have to focus on their health. That's the one thing that's kind of brought everything into perspective, is our health is number one. Our bodies can fight this disease at the end of the day, and a healthy individual that's physically active, trains well, or not even trains well, just is physically active, eats well, gets regular sleep, stress, they can regulate their own stress levels, more than likely they're going to suffer mild symptoms of it. While someone who's got high blood pressure, they've probably had colon cancer and they're 55 and they're an executive, so they're flying in and out all the time, more than likely they're going to suffer severe symptoms or potentially cark it. It's just the reality of the situation. And a lot of experts from the US saying is our immune system is the vaccine. If we actually feed the machine, which is what it needs, hydration, sleep, drop in stress levels, getting some physical training in, eating well, if we get all those core components down and able to do it for a sustained period of time, all these diseases, the body can deal with it.
Yep.
It's simple as that, but the unfortunate
Common
thing is
sense. It's common sense, but people don't listen to that.
Yeah, common sense is not common practice.
Stole that from me, mate.
And I was going to say, particularly for Nick, as you're sort of learning about, you're doing your Cert 3 and 4, they're the basic things that should be addressed regardless.
That's right,
Any
yeah.
trainer or coach, you need to, just a food sheet to fill out. You got to find out what they're eating. Are they getting enough sleep? Just the basic things that they should actually be training some of this in your course, because
That's right.
before you go rushing off anywhere, you got to look at the basics first.
Yeah, and this is where, if we go back to what makes a great coach and trainer, it's building that rapport very early on before you even touch a weight.
Asking questions.
Yeah, just really build rapport, understand where they're at, understand the current situation, even go back 5 to 10 years. Like, I go back with pretty much everyone, and Ness probably knows this. I asked, like, what sport did you play growing up? Because I want to know. I ask everyone that, because then at least I know there's potential some level of enjoyment. But I know they've been physically active. If we know people being physically active at a younger age, they're more likely to be physically active at an older age, school age as well. But if they haven't been physically active, they have the potential of health-related issues is going to be a little bit higher, because they haven't developed a foundation of bone mineral density, muscle strength, tendon strength, all that jazz. So they're going to be more susceptible, more prone compared to someone who's been physically active at a younger age. That's probably something else to add for you, Nick. All right. I think we'll wrap that up. Anyone else got anything to say? Just or we just wrap this one up. All good. All good. All right. So we've got the coffee chat. I think we said it was, what have we learnt? Did we say what it was? What we've learnt during isolation?
So I can't remember.
Adversity, wasn't it?
How have you overcome adversity? That was it.
During isolation
no. So how have you overcome adversity in your own life?
Yeah, okay.
So that's the coffee chat on Sunday. The next webinar on Thursday is the changes that need to happen at local sport.
Trent's brain is going to go on a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
My adversity is comfortable crap that Rudy, people on Instagram put out. That's my adversity.
Yeah. So with the Thursday webinar, it's to give you more context than anything else, is this is another silver lining when it comes to local sport, is people returning back to sport, more injuries are happening as a result, is because it's actually a result of bad coaching, which kind of plays into tonight's webinar. So hopefully it makes a bit more sense when we transition over to this way, and actually I'll start coming up with some more recommendations of the way it's parents, administrators, state levels, national level need to really change the perception of thinking. Even the school system, I believe the school system needs to change as well, in terms of the way we approach athlete development or sport at a local and junior level. It terribly needs to change, and it's not progressive enough.
All right.
That's good.
Done.
And David, Trent, and Nathan, I've got some questions for you as well.
Always,
I'm
mate.
sure you do. All right. I've had enough. See ya.
See you, Nez. See you, Lorraine.
Bye. See you, Nez.
See
See
ya.
you,